Pregnant coworker gets her just desserts. So, I worked in this small, family-owned office that runs 24/7. That's about 25 employees total, but in the office there's only like 12 of us. The rest work off-site. There's a woman who works there. We'll call her Jill. Jill is almost 40 and has been here for about 10 years. Reference, I've been here for just over 4 years. Since I've been hired, and from what I hear for her entire employment, she's never agreed to switch shifts with anyone. Not once. Not a single time has she done anyone a favor, no matter what. Yet, she has no issue constantly asking other people to switch shifts with her. She'd always take a shift from whatever person she was switching with to keep the hours even for everyone. But it was only when she needed it, and not the other way round, and it would always be within the same work week since we got paid by the hour. So ultimately, it wasn't like the person working this shift instead of that shift, all within the same week, was doing them any favors in the end. So she asks to switch shifts all the time but won't agree to switch shifts when someone else needs to, is what I'm trying to say. Switch as in she works their shift and they work her shift. The only way to return that favor is to agree to switch shifts with them the next time they need it, which she does not do. A year into my employment, my brother needed emergency surgery, and I begged her to cover my shift the next day, and all she said was, "Sunday's my only day to sleep in. Sorry." I never forgot that. Whatever, she's not obligated to switch shifts. It's her prerogative if she just wants to be universally disliked by our entire office. Anyway, Jill got pregnant about 7 months ago, completely accidentally, and was actually quite freaked out about it for a while. She's pretty much been nauseous her entire pregnancy and even keeps a trash can next to her desk just in case she can't make it to the bathroom. Yesterday, she was feeling really sick around 12:30 p.m. She asked her boss if she could leave early. He told her she could only leave if she could get someone to agree to finish her shift. Our shifts are mainly 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., then 3 to 11 p.m., and then 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., with periodic split shifts thrown in as needed. I was working morning yesterday and scheduled to leave at 3 p.m., and she was scheduled until 7 p.m. The only other person that could have stayed for her had plans right after his shift, so I was her only option. She waited until 2:45 and then sauntered up to my desk, puppy dog eyes fully engaged, and asked me to stay for the rest of her shift because she was feeling really ill. Now, I'm on Reddit a lot, and I never forgot this one post I saw about a nasty manager refusing to allow her employee to be at her dying son's bedside. There's a line in that text exchange that I loved, and I've been waiting for the perfect moment to use, and this was it. I swiveled to face Jill, look her right in the eyes, trail my eyes down to her bulging, unplanned, pregnant stomach, and pointedly say, "A lack of planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part," and just swiveled right back and continued working without another word. It was glorious. Her face instantly dropped. It looked like someone had tooted into her mouth the way she twisted it. She didn't say a thing and just waddled away back to her desk, absolutely furious. 15 minutes later, I stood up and loudly announced my departure and that if anyone needed me, I'd be at home taking a nap. Am I the jerk? I mean, I'll be honest, you don't come across as a wonderful person in that story, author. Granted, she doesn't seem like one either, but you could have started building the bridge if you wanted to. Regardless, even if you weren't willing to do a favor for her, you probably could have just said no, or if you wanted to be slightly mean, use the same excuse she used on you from the get-go, that you wanted to sleep a bit. I was waiting to be proven wrong when I immediately started judging you after reading the title, "Pregnant Coworker Gets Her Just Desserts," and although Jill comes across as a little apathetic, I'm not sure I'd call her refusal to cover shifts outright cruel. You did say it was a refusal to cover when your brother was having emergency surgery, but I'll be honest, a lot of workplaces in situations like this would just let their employees go and work short-handed in really rough cases where there were no replacement volunteers. It sucks for everyone else working, but it's a solution. And from the limited information we have on what your office does, I don't see any reasons not to be able to let an employee go early from time to time. So yeah, some of you might think that I'm just being my usual anti-corporation bleeding heart self, but I say this sounds much more like a crappy boss problem than it is a Jill or author problem. Hard to tell without more information, though. Oh, you know the owner? Well, that changes everything. I worked in a medium-sized video store chain for about a decade. I worked as everything from clerk to manager and district manager in that time. I've always hated customers. Hiding that fact was always a challenge. One day we had a customer that was upset that we'd charged his credit card over $100. We did this because he had rented 3 Sony PlayStation games for his kid. Our games had these CD Shield protective stickers that were stuck to the back and impossible to take off without destroying the game. His kid had tried to peel them off and killed 3 fairly new games. The mum came in and claimed that they didn't work and wanted to exchange them. The clerk had told her what her son had done to the games and that she was now responsible for the replacement of the games her son had ruined. When my employee told her how much it would cost to replace them, she said, "Good luck with that," and walked out. When I came in later that day, my employee showed me the games and told me what happened. I called the house and got the father. I explained what had happened and that I could probably cut him a little bit of slack on the replacement cost. His response, "F you, I'm not paying for anything." And he hung up, so I just charged his credit card, the one that he must have forgotten we kept on file. A few weeks later, I guess he got the credit card bill in the mail and came down to the store to yell at me. I tried to tell him that if he could go find replacements at a used game store cheaper, I'd refund the full price we'd charged him. He started off with the "I'll sue you," and then went to the "I'll report you to the Better Business Bureau," to "I'll report you to the State Attorney General." When he realized I wasn't intimidated by his threats, he very smugly said this to me: "I know the owner, and you're screwed because of how you've treated me. When I tell him you'll be fired so quick it'll make your head spin." I stared at him in disbelief and then said, "You know David?" "Yeah, I know David. You're so screwed." The owner's name is actually Pete. That's what I meant. Actually, his name is Jack. F you. He crumbled up his credit card bill, tossed it at me, and stormed out. He did fight the charges. After some paperwork and faxing a copy of his signed rental agreement, complete with his authorization for us to charge him if he damaged the rental property, he was left with no other options. Gosh, I love this kind of thing. I wish I were ever this smooth and quick on my feet. I think anyone who's ever worked in retail or hospitality has dreamed of the perfect customer with that combination of no moral ground to stand on and nothing to back up their absurd entitlement. And when they do come along, most of us just crumple in front of the assault, sadly. But you came out of this one on top. I must say, from a lot of the comments, it seems like people claiming that they know the owner or manager is, or at least used to be, a fairly regular thing. And of all the awful crap that I used to put up with in my old jobs, that's one that never really seemed to come up to me. One of the commenters pointed out that if you weren't really sure, the other thing you could do was just hand the customer the store phone and ask if they'd like to call the manager since they're such good friends, and that usually called the bluff. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, linked below. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Give me what I'm entitled to. Background: I work in a supermarket. I've been there for nearly 7 years and I've run out of any fricks I previously had when I began. Today was slightly different. Prepare for a long, wild ride. I was hanging out packing bags for a coworker, anything to get out of doing real work, when the customer pointed at the screen and abruptly said, "That's wrong." "Oh, I'm sorry, what's wrong?" "The salad tubs. They should be 2 for $7. I go and check out the deli sign and realize she's got one classic tub for $4 and one gourmet for $5. The special is only for the classic tubs. The sign very clearly states that under the classic heading. There's no mention of any special rule under the gourmet heading, so I grab the sign and head back over to the register. I say, "Sorry, look, you've grabbed one of each, it's only the classic tubs that are on sale. Would you like me to get you another classic tub?" "That's wrong. That's false advertising. If it's written on the sign, it means all of them." "Oh, well, sorry, that's not how this works." "You have to give it to me for $7. Your attitude is appalling." I can't mark stuff down without asking the night manager. "Call him down here now." So I give him a call. He's busy. He asks what the go is. I explain and, "Oh, just give it to her for $7. "What? No. Get screwed. No." I can't, yet totally can, believe that this is happening to me. I take a deep breath, turn around, and smile. I've spoken to him, and he says today we'll reduce the price for you. It isn't reducing the price, it's giving me what I'm entitled to. Coworker changes the prices, she slams her card into the machine, and the transaction doesn't process because she's put in the wrong PIN. My coworker says, "Oh, sorry, you put in the wrong PIN. Can you try that again, please?" "Stop sabotaging my finances. What's your name? Mark? Mark, you'll be hearing from me." Holy fricking Christ on a bike. She finally leaves and I'm shaking because I really don't deal well with people shouting at me. But the next customer is lovely and we all relax and it's going to be alright. Nope. Half an hour later, the store manager calls me from upstairs. "Yolanda, what did you and Mark do? I've never had a customer yell so loudly about how bad the staff are." I explained the situation. "No, you know better. Customer is always right. If they're going to be like that, give them what they want and move on. Their happiness is more important than yours." I hung up the phone, look at Mark, and burst into tears. I haven't cried for years at this job. I'm so ashamed. People are looking at me, so I just mumble, "Back in a minute." I walk outside and just let rip for about 5 minutes. I do feel bad for leaving Mark on register alone, so I fix my makeup and go back inside. The rest of the shift passes, a man steals $100 of meat, kids are caught stuffing chocolate down their pants, Mark makes me laugh, and just before I leave, the night manager pulls me aside and repeats exactly what he said earlier. I smile, nod, leave, call my boyfriend, rent forever, come home, and now I'm writing this. I really wish the end of this massive post was, "And that's the story of why I quit my job," but today is not that day. Instead, I'm just going to eat some pizza pockets, play Mario Kart, and fantasize about the day I do quit. And obviously, names have been changed to protect me and my work pal. Sheesh. Well, folks, we've had some stories where these absolute jerks get their just desserts, and now we have this. Most of the time, working in food service just sucks, doesn't it? For every guy who manages to delightfully troll an entitled butthead about the name of the owner or manager, there are 10 appalling customers who make your life absolute hell, and management will just stand back and side with them most of the time. It sucks, but this is why we get out of that business if we can. Or we eventually run our own small shops, cafes, and delis, and stick up for our staff members when these venomous old dinosaurs roam in, shrieking at the top of their lungs. Hope your life and work situation got better. We can only pray that this absolute monster eventually went on to be one of the many characters that eventually get karmic justice dealt out to them in the many other stories of evil Karens that we narrate here on the channel. I mean, how many of these people can there really be? A couple of them statistically might appear on the channel more than once in different stories. The same mean old reptile getting a well-earned knuckle sandwich from karma. Let's hope the customer from this story was one of them. The city needs to accommodate my kids' sleeping schedule. I read this open letter to City Council in a local newspaper a while ago, and it made me laugh and cringe, so I thought I'd share. It was a complaint from a father of a toddler girl. The gist of the letter was that when the garbage truck drove by his house in the morning, it woke up his daughter at 7, and she would be fuzzy. This was a huge problem because she actually didn't need to get up before 8, and now he had to get up an hour early to get himself ready before his kid woke up. My first thought when I read this was that if it wasn't the garbage truck, it would be something else. His neighbors, the birds on his yard, the sun. It also states in the article that the early pickup was temporary and due to the garbage men being fewer people at work at the time, so they wouldn't get exposed to you-know-what. But I guess, screw the pandemic, my little angel needs her beauty sleep. His suggestion was that City Council invested in some city planners to redraw the route that the garbage truck drove so it would hit his house at a later point than it did right now, so that it would match with his daughter's sleeping pattern. Also, isn't it common that kids wake up really early? Maybe he could get up and do some parenting instead of blaming it on everyone else. And the best part? You know how often this garbage truck drove past his house? Every other Tuesday. I thought it was really common that kids woke up super early, right? Maybe he could just get up and do some parenting instead of blaming it on everyone else. Jesus frickin' Christ, it's literally once every 14 days. Okay, update. They actually met with him and took up the proposal. But the article doesn't say anything about whether it was successful or not. I really, really hope it wasn't and he learned his lesson somehow. Am I the jerk for laughing at this guy who just wants an extra hour in bed? I mean, this is just a long laugh, right? I can't believe that the city reps actually met with Mr. Rearrange the city to better suit my particular needs. Now, obviously, the narrator doesn't have kids, but I can't imagine any parent I know even bothering to complain about this. And it comes every 2 weeks. Just wait till she's doing what all other kids do at the age of 7, and are downstairs watching Sesame Street or Bluey from 6 a.m. in the morning and torturing their siblings in the ad breaks. Enjoy your 7 a.m. sleep-ins while you can, suburban dad. I'm amazed somehow you've gotten her to the age of 7 and somehow reacquainted yourself with the idea that a full night's sleep is something you'll get all the time. Alright, so he's not really much of a jerk, just hilariously short-sighted and a little self-centered. Am I the jerk for demanding that my son take his daughter on his family trip to Disneyland? I got pregnant with my son Julius, 28, about a month after my 18th birthday. I tried to do my best for him and he got into a good engineering school, but at 19 he got his then-girlfriend Isa pregnant, and they had AmITheA together. I've been the one who's mostly raised her. Isa got deported, but they spend July together and FaceTime every night. Julius got married to his girlfriend Katya after graduation, and they have 2 wonderful boys together. AmITheA lives with me and not with them. She does go to live with her mother and her family in Mexico for the month of July. While she loves it there with all of her aunts and uncles and cousins and would probably be okay with moving, her mother wants her to have a Canadian education. The thing is, Julius never spends any time with AmITheA. He doesn't even call to say goodnight. But she loves him so much. It's like once a month, he'll show up with a box full of toys, spend a day with her, and then go back to his family. It hurts her so much that he doesn't spend time with her because he's her hero, and I'm just grandma. And no, he doesn't act this way because of his wife. Katya would love to have AmITheA move in with them. She once brought up the idea and she went on about all the things they could do together. She'd love to be her stepmom, calls her princess, sweetie, and so many nice nicknames. The only reason they haven't done it is because Julius said she should stay with me. A few days ago, Julius told me that he and Katya were planning a trip to Disneyland in August. I told him that AmITheA would be so excited and he should tell her on her birthday, and he just blankly told me she's not coming and the trip is for his boys. I made it clear to him that he needed to bring her on the trip, and he just called me a jerk, which he's never done before, for trying to control him, apparently. I admit that I was a bit controlling in my reaction, but I don't think I went that far. He's my son and he may be a grown-up now, but I still have to try and teach him to be better even if it's impossible now. Wow. Julius is a mega jerk dad. Imagine just bailing on your responsibilities like this and turfing the responsibility off onto the woman who raised you into the bargain. Like, it sounds like the guy has graduated from engineering school and can't be doing that badly for money if he's raising 2 kids and doing Disneyland trips from Canada. He has the resources. His wife likes and accepts AmITheA. I get that maybe it's a little complicated for him emotionally to have her around, and that's just me giving him credit that maybe he's more complex than he comes across in the story. If it's not that, then somehow he just doesn't care about his own flesh and blood at all, which is even more heartbreaking, especially given that she seems to idolize him and want his love. A couple of just sad stories in this video, I guess, folks. We're being reminded that most of the jerk encounters in the world don't end with high-five moments where they get owned by a protagonist. Most of them are just jerks. We'll finish this video with some escapism, though. Put my food in this bag right now. About a decade ago, I was in a McDonald's. I'd ordered and paid and was just waiting for my food near the pickup counter. In walked a man with a serious case of main character syndrome. He placed his order, then stood directly against the pickup counter. Shortly after, my food came out, and yes, they called out my order number. He quickly snatched it up, then looked in the bag and noticed it wasn't the right food for him. Since there was no chance he could have made a mistake, he started to complain. Yelling that they gave him the wrong food, he insisted they put his food in the bag right away. And with the joy of people who don't get paid enough for this crap, they gladly obliged. Taking the bag back, they quickly piled all his food on top of mine. The toxic levels of smug emanating from the man dissipated as the employee turned and handed me the bag. They say to him, "I'm sorry, sir, this bag wasn't your order. It was his," meaning me. "Your order will now just be a few more minutes as we need to remake it. Since I already had what I wanted, I gave the extra to someone else." Okay, thank you. I needed this after a few stories of the villains of life getting away scot-free. Not that it hasn't been good for us to be reminded that most of the time they go unpunished, but it's nice to finish on a story where a blustering, selfish old fool actually gets what they deserve. Also, I kind of love how little of a crap that the fast food staff gave in this. Just piling on a whole bunch of extra food on top of a random guy's and handing it out to him. I have to guess that the manager was on their break for that. We'd have never gotten away with that in my days of slaving under the golden arches. Absolute legends, thanks for punishing that guy on your downtime. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories. Or if you want to check out some great music, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, give Am I the Genius a shot. Everything linked in the description.